Well, welcome back to Kitchen Table TCG, everyone. I'm honored to bring you guys Xerix from the warehouse at Channel Fireball. No, right?
That's correct.
Now, your apartment right there is not the warehouse for Channel Fireball, right? Just want to clarify.
No,
Okay.
no, definitely not.
Because the warehouse to Kitchen Table TCG looks awfully like your background, but you guys are a little bit bigger than Kitchen Table TCG. Xerix is a proud. He is in our Discord server. He's been in a couple of our Discord server armory events in the last couple of weeks, and we just got to talking, and it's been a lot of fun to chat. And I was like, dude, you need to be on the show or on the channel because I think you could answer some questions. We could have a good chat, and then you asked permission from Channel Fireball, and they said that you're allowed to come on, but I want to make sure we get this right, so they're not upset with you, and they can be upset with me if they want, but that the words you say are your words and not Channel Fireball's, and you can't answer any questions that are Channel Fireball secret knowledge.
Right. My opinions are my own. I am not here as a representative of the company. I just happen to work there.
So my first question then is, how many boxes of Monarch do you guys have? No, I'm just joking.
And we're offline.
No, I asked some people, hey, what question should I ask? And that was number one, but I know that can't be a question.
Yeah, I'm sure the world would love to know.
Well, dude, you've got a tremendous background in TCGs, if I recall from our conversation. So I'd love to hear, just talk to us a little bit. How did you get involved with trading card games? What have trading card games meant in your life? And then eventually, get to how Flesh and Blood has interacted with you.
Well, I have been a lifelong TCG hobbyist. Most early involvement in trading cards was 4th edition, Magic the Gathering, Ice Age era. My brother played. I didn't understand it, but he got me to play with him, and that kind of set the tone. I didn't really get into Magic much on that era, but it did lead the stage for me getting involved in Pokemon when it released about 25 years ago. I was
old,
in on the video games. Yeah. I was in on the video games, and as soon as they launched the trading card games, that was it. I started hardcore collecting. I ended up starting to travel and then travel the nation as a Pokemon trainer with cards.
Oh,
wow. I learned how to maintain a collection, and more importantly, how to use a collection to gain value, use it as a monetary instrument to further playing and traveling. I only retired from the Pokemon trading card game scene a couple of years ago because I became a full-time professor. The professor is the equivalent to the judge in the Pokemon world, and over the last couple of years, I became an international level judge. I am technically stage 1, and then COVID happened.
So you're telling me that people actually play Pokemon?
Yeah, it's
wow. Because what I've been told is that the only thing that happens in Pokemon is collecting. So that's awesome to hear that people actually play.
One of the strongest points for the Pokemon collecting is that the events, they tend to be exceedingly family friendly. Competitive spirit is there, but it's it has a different vibe than Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And most of the card games that I've played. I didn't find that vibe in another game until I came to Flesh and Blood, which is what gives me the feeling that the community aspect, as much as LSS is embracing it, is going to succeed.
Yeah.
It is one of the best things Pokemon has going for it. Unfortunately, COVID has made it so that play is online only. That is causing some problems within the community, and it's leading it to be competitive only, which was never meant to be. It's kind of goes in hand, family and sports.
So would you say that the Pokemon community is polarized between kind of two sectors of a player sector and then a collector investor sector? Because I've heard opposite to be true about the collecting and buying and selling Pokemon card, where like the attitude is kind of negative right now. Is that true?
Um, to a certain extent, I don't have the ability to answer within the time frame of the last year or two because I did become a judge and thusly no longer needed to maintain a collection.
Oh, okay.
Uh, One of the things is that judges get all kinds of cool cards and gear that is worth tons of money because it says the word staff on it,
That's cool.
and then we have no way to play it. We never have time. It's you either take one path or the other.
Yeah, that's cool.
Uh, but moving forward past that, I think that prepared me for Flesh and Blood at least a little, in the aspect that Flesh and Blood has cold foils, and there are certain times when you want to go after a certain card because it can be the backbone monetarily of what you're doing. And most recently, by joining Kitchen Table, using the Patreon collection tracker has shown me uh, how fast my collection is increasing in value and allowing to make some really good decisions.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, cool, man. So it sounds like you got involved in Magic the Gathering in the past. You kind of started playing Pokemon. You got apparently really good at Pokemon enough to be a judge. Now you're a judge or a trainer or whatever. And now you're kind of. How long have you been in the Flesh and Blood world?
Couple of months.
Okay.
So after I started working for Channel, my coworkers really, 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 really wanted me to play this new game called Flesh and Blood.
Okay.
This
Cool.
was right as COVID was hitting, and unfortunately for me, I decided that without ever playing a game, that the art style was not my taste because look at all these beautiful Pokemon cards I was collecting at the time, and said, ah, I don't want to be involved in a third game right now,
Sure.
so I
I
took
hear
a
that all the
pass.
time.
Uh, and then that was out in Santa Clara. We moved here to Las Vegas, and all of my new team members were like, "Hey, we're gonna play Flesh and Blood.
That's awesome.
When
So
are you gonna play Flesh and
the
Blood?"
Channel
And I'm like,
Fireball team members are all playing Flesh and Blood.
"Yes, they are."
That's
We
awesome.
have a substantial portion of the staff that basically peer pressured me into playing right around when Crucible was
That's awesome.
just starting to take off, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna buy a couple boxes just to get them satisfied, whatnot. And I bought 3 boxes, and I'm like, all right, what am I gonna? Whatever I get the most of, I'll build one class. Famous last words. I'll build one class. I pulled Spring Tunic and some warrior cards, and so we decided I was gonna be a warrior main.
Nice.
And then I bought 2 more boxes, and in box number 5 was a Heart of Findle for my
Wow.
deck.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
Uh, and then like a couple months later, that is like, oh well, if I build the Ira deck, I can learn how to play my Dory deck better in the mirror, and then it was all over.
Yeah, I get that.
I have all 8 decks now,
I love that.
and I bought into Arcane Rising. I was like, I'm not gonna buy into Arcane Rising. Guy, my teammate gets me to buy 1 box of that, and I'm like, oh look, well, I guess it's a wizard because I pulled an Eye of Ophidia out of my 5th box.
Oh, you lucky duck, dude.
Okay,
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
opened.
I had no idea
I
how.
still haven't opened a eye or a heart for myself. I had to buy
Oh
both of
well,
them.
that's because you're a really nice guy and you keep opening scads of them for everybody else.
I'm happy to do it.
Lovely.
I'm happy to do it. All right. So tell me. So we've talked about you work at Channel Fireball. I think we missed those. What do you do at Channel Fireball? You are. I know, but tell the listeners what you do because it's pretty
Uh,
cool. You got
I
a
am.
pretty big role at Channel Fireball.
Yeah, I am the outbound division manager. My team runs everything that has to do with getting all of the stuff people bought out the door in a timely manner. So Thank you for your patience.
So before anybody goes and leaves a message in the chat saying, "Hey, where is my order number 5672?" Tell us a little bit about, like, I know maybe you can't answer everything, but what does that mean daily? How many orders? Not just Flesh and Blood, but how many orders are coming in and out of a store like Channel Fireball daily?
Um, what can I say without naming specifics? Not a lot. Uh, Especially if it's pre-order season, it can be a bit wonky because we'll have orders that we can't fill.
Yeah,
Our queue will fill with orders on the large numbers of we can't do it. The product is not allowed to leave yet. And then we will get the product and we will have an exceedingly short amount of time to turn it all around, which is why I have the staff that I do.
cool.
It's because feast or famine, we get both. It's usually not a solid, steady beat. It's
Yeah.
more like a wave.
So at new releases, it's obviously way higher in volume, and then like in the middle of non-release season or whatever, it's slower. And then I assume like Christmas time is just absolutely insane. Uh,
uh, the stimulus check
oh yeah,
put us so far behind.
I
It's
bet.
just like what do people do when they get expendable income? It's the same thing as like when people start cashing in their crypto currencies off a spike or whatnot. Luxury goods like ours just fly off the shelves.
Wow.
It's just like, oh, I can finally get that thing that I wanted. Let's go get it. Oh, they're sold out. Everyone else is doing the same thing. That's
Yeah.
why.
So then, how? Now I don't know. Remember how long you've been there, but how did, maybe you would know this regardless? How did adding a product like Flesh and Blood affect that process? Was that like, is it easy to add a new product, or is that something that like bogs you down? You have to hire more staff. Like, how does adding a product like Flesh and Blood affect your day to day operation?
It changes the picture of what we're shipping out, but it doesn't really change the productivity.
Okay.
It because think of it this way: your average gamer can only put money into one game at a time.
Oh yeah.
Whether they're putting that into Magic or Pokemon or Flesh and Blood, it's just going to change what they're ordering with us, but they're still going to order with us. That's how I see it.
Hmm. Interesting. And so, how do you think? Like, have you seen? Maybe this is pointed, but have you seen like decrease in sales in other products as Flesh and Blood has become more popular, or do you feel like the pandemic's just made everything go crazy and there's no way to know that?
Uh, because I don't have access to numbers
Oh yeah.
in that venue, I can only speculate. Uh, if I were to say what COVID has done with trading cards in general, it has spiked almost universally across the board. Because all we ever hear about is, oh, sorry, the printers didn't get us enough of our product. Oh, sorry, there's shipping delays because a boat got stuck.
Hmm.
And it's like everything's short printed, and because FOMO, as the term, is a very real market force. If you tell someone, hey, there's not going to be enough of that, what's it going to do? It's going to sell even harder and become a self fulfilling prophecy. I saw that happen with Vivid Voltage, with Champion's Path, Flesh and Blood. We can see it happening around us with Monarch, obviously, and it's good and bad at the same time because it's making some stores make some very risky decisions on what do you want to sell for pre-orders? Do you want to sell pre-orders?
Right.
Do you want to wait for everyone else to sell their pre-orders and then put yours online? Or like we've seen people that are regrettably deciding to cancel early orders or buy from other shops just so that they can buy a pre-order to sell a pre-order.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
seen
think
that a
I've
lot
ever
too.
seen that, but I have not seen that particular behavior before
Hmm.
personally. It is definitely the first time hearing about it. It's kind of concerning.
Yeah, it's really
Uh,
it's
I
risky on all
don't
sides
know
of
what
things.
the I don't know what that does if like what does that do to the market if that falls apart? That
Yeah.
is one of my concerns.
That's a very valid concern because I think you make a good point where it's like if I pre-order a product, I heard a lot of people doing this with the TCG pre-orders, right? Where they would get a product for $110. This is what the bots were kind of trying to do, right?
Yeah.
And then sell their pre-order for now the $400, the $500 price tag, and it's like you're going to not necessarily get that box in time. So if I bought a box for $500 as a pre-order, I expect that box to show up. Like if release day is Friday, that box better be at my door Saturday morning. Maybe Sunday, Monday I'm okay with, but if I sell it for $500 and TCG Player gets it to my house on Monday, and then I package it all up, bring it to the post office on Tuesday. It doesn't get to the purchaser's house till Thursday. As the purchaser, I'm not happy with you as a seller, and so that would make me leave negative review right there. So
Yeah.
I think it's risky on the seller side of things to like put your reputation on a pre-order and then not deliver for a week after release. That just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, the post office is doing the best they can, but I've had any number of packages come through. Like I've been sticking to priority only when dealing with like shipping as much as I can, and even still, sometimes it just disappears into a distribution center for half a week.
Yeah.
And what are you gonna do? It's just like, well, I hope my tracking updates again.
Yeah.
I haven't actually fully lost anything, but the worst one, it was like a week and a half.
Hmm.
I was like, all right, this 3-day priority package took 10 days.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Sorry.
So continuing with the COVID stuff, how have you as a production manager and how has your staff had to grow or change or lessen as a result of COVID? Like, did you guys have to do some things that really slowed down production as a result of like the COVID restrictions? Because you're kind of in this weird place where not like if you worked in like a restaurant industry, right? Like COVID happened and nobody went out to eat to restaurants, so it didn't really matter.
Right.
It mattered. It was bad for. Sorry, I didn't mean to say like it didn't matter. It mattered, but like it didn't matter that people couldn't come into work because there was nobody going to eat. Whereas now, where you are, it's like nobody could come into work hypothetically, but in addition, now everyone is buying stuff off of Channel Fireball because the collectibles market's going crazy. How did you guys handle that kind of dynamic of like the collectible world's growing like crazy, but you also have to have these kind of COVID restrictions?
Back when we were in Santa Clara, that was my first of many, many hard tasks. Back then I was one slot down in the outbound lead position, and my job was to effectively guide the warehouse outbound division in, okay, how do we follow COVID protocols and still fill orders? So we had to just redesign our process from scratch to accommodate the new methods, and we got there. We had the time. Back then, orders weren't really popping off at all,
Hmm.
at least in the early months, which gave us time to slowly bring things back up to speed and keep it safe while we were doing so. So that project was a huge success overall. And when we ended up moving down to Las Vegas, we just designed our warehouse with COVID in mind.
Oh wow.
So, so we were able to hit the ground fully running and prepared. And we are doing great on that aspect. Everyone is happy and healthy as much as I can make it.
Good. So because you guys moved in the middle of that transition, right? Like you guys moved 6 months ago. Is that what you told me?
Yeah, we ended up in Las Vegas mid-September of last year.
Cool. Let's come back to that. But because you guys moved, it was like you set up everything. It was like you didn't have to relearn anything because it was kind of like creating it. So
Yeah.
what was the reason for the move?
Uh, they told us to.
No, obviously it's the reason you moved, but like, what was the reason? Why relocate? Because you guys had like a full fledged store with a place to play and stuff in Santa Clara, right?
Yes, but COVID absolutely 100% shut that down.
Right. So
Um,
so then it would just
the
became like a real estate's cheaper in Los Angeles or sorry in Las Vegas or like is that kind of the idea?
I never heard tell of it.
Gotcha.
The around like what was that, July of last year? They basically said, "Hey, it's on the table that we're gonna move, and we want to know, are you interested in moving with us?" To which I thought for about a month and a half, I
Yeah.
want to say, because I effectively that was just cutting ties with everything in my life and coming down here trying to be independent for the first time,
Yeah.
and I took the leap.
That's cool.
I don't regret it. The people down here are amazing.
That's awesome. Cool. So talk to me a little bit more about like Flesh and Blood and as a TCG. So you've got Pokemon, you've got Magic the Gathering experience, you've got a lot of experience, but yet you
Mhm.
find yourself hanging out on like what would it Thursday nights. You find yourself hanging out in a Discord server playing Flesh and Blood with a bunch of random people on the internet. What is
Ah,
it? What is it about Flesh and Blood that like drives you to want to spend the time playing it and investing in it as a hobby? Obviously, there's another side of this that's like investing it as like a monetary thing, but as a hobby, what is it that makes you want to invest in Flesh and Blood as a hobby?
as a hobby, one of the things that I like about Flesh and Blood the most is it's less random.
Mm,
Uh, Magic and Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Legend of the Five Rings, everything about those games, you cannot escape some element of randomness. Flesh and Blood has it to a certain extent, but you have so many more ways to mitigate it that like one of the worst feelings that I ever had as a Pokemon trainer was going into a game, especially a really important game, and your deck doesn't show up.
yeah,
You get a flub hand. Like I lost a state invitational because I opened one basic 6 energy in a game 3. I'm like, what do I do about this? Well, they say that's Pokemon. Well, Flesh and Blood says, hey, you can dump your opening hand against their crippling crush and stay in the game.
yeah,
I think that's immense. I don't think any other game brings the ability to temper luck to the table. And it's just like, well, there's no mulligans. There doesn't really need to be mulligans in
mm-mm.
a game like this where you're playing more chess than you are playing some kind of bingo or whatnot. And
That's a
seeing
great
if your
analogy.
rock lines, you're not seeing if your rock lines up against their scissors or their paper. Both people are in the game from the word go, and certainly there are matchups that can be made better or worse by certain play decisions,
Yeah,
but it's going to be within tolerance that you might have been able to win any given game.
and that's for
And
Blitz too, which you've only probably played Blitz. Is that accurate?
I've played Blitz. I played one constructed, classic constructed tournament with
Okay,
Dorinthia that I did manage to win.
nice.
Uh,
Congratulations.
I I haven't actually done very well on any of our Thursday night affairs, but for the tournaments that we have here in Las Vegas, I've actually notched a few wins underneath my belt, which is
Oh,
deeply satisfying.
so maybe the Channel Fireball crew just isn't as good as the Kitchen Table TCG Thursday night crew.
I withhold comment. I do like to live.
I'm just giving you a hard time. Cool. So what I've heard is that classic construct, and I have not played much classic constructed. That's a lie. I haven't played any classic constructed. But what I've heard is that because you are building, because you have the sideboard, right? It's an 80 card deck. Sorry, it's an 80 card hole that you cut to a 60 card deck after the hero reveal. So
Yeah,
like where I feel like Runeblade OTK has a terrible matchup against like kind of against Brute, against some other things, it just doesn't have that great of a matchup. Um, it it has the ability to kind of change up the deck with 20 cards against specific matchups. So I think that could be really really cool, and I love that moving forward we're going to kind of move towards a classic constructed format. I think especially with Monarch, like Monarch really reveals this, right? Where it's like the light versus dark, and all these cards affect things that are like shadow. Like all the light cards are like geared towards shadow cards, and it's like going to be a lot of like sideboarding. I think so. I think that'll be really cool to see. Because you're right.
yeah.
Like right now, there's a lot of matchups that just kind of suck right now.
Classic Constructed will allow these very pointed card designs that specifically say, like, this card doesn't do very much if you're not against a dark hero. So in Classic Constructed, it comes out.
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm playing against a generic hero. I need to make sure that I leave enough cards in my deck to hit 60 while taking out all of these cards that are pointed against either a dark hero or a light hero, depending on who you're against. And I think it really improves on the whole sideboard idea that you
Yeah.
get in games like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, where you're still going to play only one game, but you're going to play a really good game because your cards are going to line up before you even flip over your first card.
Yeah. So like in Magic, you have a 15 card sideboard, which is 75% of 20, so that's nice. But it's
Yep.
you can't sideboard. This is for anybody who doesn't know. You can't sideboard until after the first game because you don't know the deck that you're playing against until after the first game. So usually the first game, if you're playing a mono red deck and whatever. Anyway, the first game you get hosed. There's nothing you could have done. Didn't matter your draw, whatever. Second game you have to decide what to sideboard. Then you can have a better chance at winning or whatever you need to do. Well, in Flesh and Blood, everyone reveals their hero card, and then you get to put your deck together. Like, I love that. Like,
Yeah,
I think that's such
absolutely.
a cool dynamic. It's like, why waste the first game? Like, why? Like, there's times in Magic where you're just like, yeah, I forfeit. I'm not going to play the first game because I know that I'm going to get killed. So why waste the time? Whereas Flesh and Blood, it's like, no, like, we're not going to do that. Like, this is where it's at. Like, I love that
you get one game, but it's going to be a good one.
Yeah. And every card matters is kind of, as you were saying earlier, like every card feels good.
Classic Constructed leads to feel-good moments like the one tournament I was playing, I was in the semis against Midori against Bravo, and I left all my Steelblade shunts in because I was trying to prevent crush effects as much as possible. And he, after like the third or fourth shunt, he's like, "How many did you leave? And why do you have so many shunts?" And the game ended on him going like, "Do I want to attack with Anothos here?"
That's
He
awesome.
attacks, and I'm holding 2 blue shunts, and it's like, shunt for game. It was insane. I was
awesome.
full of nerves for that, but that was a highlight.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that it creates stuff like that, and each deck can be individualized and changed, and it doesn't have to just be like this kind of meta. And we're kind of with Blitz, I feel like, in this kind of meta world right now. I think that'll change a little bit more with Constructed because you can target the meta a little easier.
Yeah, it's one thing to keep running Dory and Ira and Kano around in a circle when you can't do much about it, but when the life totals get much higher, suddenly you need to pay attention to where tempo is at so much more. You can't just be like, well, take all the damage and I'll play out my hand against you, but if you don't swing the pendulum back, you're in a load of trouble.
Yeah, that's cool. All right, last 5-10 minutes. I want to ask you. You kind of mentioned earlier in the conversation that you were able to learn how to use your collection to help fund things, or travel, or whatever, to be involved in the hobby. You kind of talked about creating an idea of how to maintain a collection. That's something I'm really passionate about. One of the kind of goals of my channel is, I feel like that's something that I've learned how to do through Magic the Gathering, and I see a lot of people in the trade, not in the Flesh and Blood community yet, but in the trading card communities, who make bad decisions with their cards. So I remember a buddy of mine. I don't remember what set it was, but it was a Magic the Gathering set. He pulled open the foil Majestic Planeswalker that everybody was looking at. It was like a $90 card. He spent $80 on the box, pulled a $90 card, and traded it into the shop for $40. And it was like, what are you doing? Like it didn't even hold on to it. Didn't think about it. He was like, oh my gosh, I can get half of my box value off of one card. It's like he didn't realize how rare it was to pull that card, and just kind of took the half money. So that kind of is one of the things on my channel. That's like why that's why I do the market updates, because I want people to be informed of, like, this is how much your card is worth. And we see this all the time, people who only look at eBay sold listings don't have all the information if they're not looking on Facebook and Discord and on TCG Player. And so or I'll throw in Channel Fireball because it's Channel Fireball, but One of my passions is like helping people learn how to value their collection so that they make healthy decisions. So I would love, like, I'm putting you on the spot, but give me some of your tips. Like, what are some of the things that you've learned on like how to maintain a collection and then how to use your collection to fund the other side of the hobby?
Okay. Uh, Number one most thing that I see underutilized is not the cards themselves, uh, but what are you protecting your cards with?
Ooh, that's good.
Uh, the I will shout out to Ultimate Guard here personally because they have saved my collection on more than one occasion. Uh, my bags got left out on the Las Vegas tarmac in a monsoon,
Wow.
and a lot of the stuff in the bags were soaked through, but their archives and the boulders inside of them kept the cards bone dry. I thought that I was looking at just soggy cardboard, but nope.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
High quality storage gear is very, very important. And the higher the value of the potential value of the collection you're looking to house, the less I would say you should be skimping on materials.
Yeah.
Uh, Cheap sleeves are fine if you're shuffling up like for a draft deck, but I only use katanas at this point. I think they're fine. If I'm playing with something like a Heart of Findle in the deck, everything is getting perfect fitted and then double sleeved. Are they
Now,
annoying?
now be careful with
Absolutely,
perfect
but
fits. Do you know this? That there's a lot of flesh and blood cards in the world that have been damaged by perfect fits. This is something that's new to me that I've learned.
I did not know.
A lot of the corner damage that you see in flesh and blood cards comes from perfect fitting the card. And I have noticed, if you've noticed in the last month, I've stopped perfect fitting on my box openings. I still perfect fit my decks because I agree that like if you're playing with the card, it needs to be. But uh, I've noticed like when I perfect fit a couple cards, like when you put that card in, it just flakes off the edge of the card. Um,
Ooh,
be careful, perfect. You just gotta be really careful on how you put it in there. You gotta kind of like, you can't just like turn it in like you do on a magic card because it whatever reason the print doesn't quite catch it.
yeah.
But I agree, you should perfect fit.
I do not perfect fit my equipment. I only keep them single sleeved and in a top loader of their own.
Nice.
And that seems to do well enough and be easy enough to handle safely.
Yeah.
But yeah, keeping. I really wish they would let us keep the equipment in top loaders because now it's going to actually go to the graveyard because graveyard matters.
Yeah.
Sad
So
face.
here's what I've been thinking I'm gonna do because I am all my expensive cards I'm getting slabbed, uh, and I want to play with cold foils because that's kind of what I want to do. Um,
Mm.
but what I'm gonna do is take either a proxy or a non-foil version and put it in a same color sleeve and keep it to the side. And so when my card, like when my equipment gets destroyed, just take the sleeve one and put it into the graveyard. And then you can still
Ooh.
play with the sleeved one, and it doesn't ever have to go. It doesn't ever get shuffled into your deck, so it doesn't matter because you start the game with it out. So that was my
Right.
solution of like, I do want to like I want to play with my Bloodsheath Skeleton cold foil, and until that card's worth like $5,000, I'm comfortable like traveling around with it and like bringing it places. Like $2,000, it's like okay, I know that's a lot of money, but I've walked around with a commander deck that was $2,000. I've gone to the LGS and played with it. So like,
Oh yeah.
what's the difference with like a slabbed card? Like it's not gonna leave my sight. I get it, but once it hits that kind of $5,000 range, I'm like okay, it's not worth. It's just not worth having out of my out of my safety deposit box. It's just not.
Yeah. That is actually a very interesting idea. Getting someone to make actual physical tokens that we could just sleeve up and have as a proxy to keep our equipment safe, as it
Yeah,
were.
and
So, free idea there.
I'm not sure how LSS would handle that. I'm guessing that as long as you own the physical card, that a proxy would be allowed in that realm. As long as it wasn't using the real artwork and all that stuff. They kind of put out that thing that was like, hey, don't reuse artwork, whatever. So I could see something like a token like you could label it as like a Bloodsheath Skeleton token, right? So like you put it in your
Yeah.
sleeve and then it went in your. I think that could be a cool.
If you wanted to make it even more generic, it wouldn't even have to. It could literally just have the symbols of the zones on them, like a T-shirt for chest or a picture of your
Bingo.
legs for the legs.
Bingo. You can get it on at cavdansmarket.com if you want later on this week. It'll be up there. And no, I'm just joking. I don't have time to make tokens.
Yeah, well, I'm sure someone with artistic qualities out there can get on that because that's actually a really solid idea, honestly.
Yeah, you're a
And
genius.
easy to do and generic.
Yeah.
That's the important point is generic. So a wide range of use. You would only need what, a set of 4?
Yeah, well, you probably want some for your equipment, just in case. I mean, like Talishar gets destroyed. Talishar the Lost Prince.
Oh yeah, so 5 weapon.
Yeah, and you could do multiple. You could do like a set of 12 or something like that, and have like all types of weapons, just in case, like
Yeah.
for future proofing. But Talishar is really the only weapon right now that gets destroyed.
Uh,
I like it.
yeah, I
Okay, so
can't
that
think
was
of
your
anything
first thing.
else.
Protect your cards, right? And you mentioned Ultimate Guard is your kind of your baby. So I like Dragon
Yeah.
Shield sleeves. That's kind of my thing.
I moved from Dragon Shield to Ultimate Guard. I do think
Really?
Dragon Shield is just fine.
Hmm.
Uh,
Any reason that you
I
moved? Just the price?
uh I moved because I figured if I was protecting my gear
That's fair.
with high quality UG stuff, that their sleeves are probably also similar. I
Yeah.
do not actually have a metric with which by to compare. In terms of shuffling, I feel like their shuffle feel is a little nicer for me, but
So
that's pure
I've been
personal
using
choice.
these Pro Mat. Oops, those are rune chant tokens. Pro Mat, no glare. Like they're a little bit more expensive, but they shuffle super nice. Anyway,
Yeah,
uh,
that product came out well after I started using UG.
and it's kind of nice because like you were saying, you have so many decks. I now just sleeve in those. So like when I take a card out of a deck to put it in another deck, it's already in the same sleeves. Which
Yep.
is another tip that I usually try to tell people is like if you're gonna go with Ultimate Guard blue, go with Ultimate Guard blue for every deck, and don't do the whole like trying to be cool and have your deck match the color of the hero or something like that, unless you're like absolutely in love with it. Like I have commander decks that I do that for because it's like that's my I'm not gonna change it. I'm done buying magic cards. So like that's my commander deck. That's the way that it is. Like it's never gonna change. Um, so yeah, I think that's cool. All right, so you
Yeah.
said protect your cards. What's your? You said you had a couple of them. So what else?
Okay. Definitely want to respect your high dollar options. Like uh you had the story of the guy who pulls a $90 foil out of a $90 box, immediately buy lists it for 45. Uh don't do that. You you want to like impulse one of the things I've learned in my
Yeah,
many years is that impulses last about 5 minutes, and they cloud your judgment. You pull this thing, you're suddenly on an adrenaline hit, right? Oh my god, I just pulled this card. It's worth so much money. I can get $350 for that right the heck now. I like $350. Why not?
yeah,
The store counter is more than happy to take your $700 card and hand you over 350, and then your card sells to a internet person for 650 to 700
yep,
like an hour later.
yeah,
uh if you are moving around anything that is more than, I would even say, 50 to $100, do your research.
yeah.
There are did not used to be this way, but let me tell you, the number of selling opportunities that the modern player has now is absurd.
It's awesome.
I only just started getting into the idea of doing business over Facebook. TCG Player informs prices, eBay informs prices, and then sell it to someone over Facebook or trade it to someone who needs it to get more than your buy list value out of it.
Yeah.
There is
Your friendly neighbor Louis DeGeorge, your friendly neighbor Kitchen Table TCG also does pricing too. Kind of sets it up for you.
Yeah, this is a lovely feature of the Patreon, which I fully and personally endorse.
I appreciate you.
Um, that said, there is a point at which buy listing is appropriate,
Hmm.
especially if expediency of funds is something you need. Hey, you need rent money? Yep, you're gonna take a hit. It's gonna be about 50% of whatever you're looking at, but buy list is your best friend when you need money now.
Yeah, I would also say
And
buy lists are really good in bulk too. Like, because when you sell cards in bulk, you're already giving a, like, you're so let's say you have 100 cards. You're going to be giving a discount for 100 cards, or you're going to probably get what, 80% of the value, something like that.
yeah,
75, 80% of the value. So if you're going to buy list, the buy list doesn't care how many cards you send in. That's not any. It's not like if you buy list 100 cards, they pay you 20% instead of 50%. Like, so you get a lot closer, and then you don't have to do the work of like finding a buyer. So I do think buy lists have their merits in that regard.
yeah.
I never
It's
ever sell
definitely
cards in
the
bulk though.
yeah, it's definitely the 7-Eleven of finance, because you pay for the convenience, but it is there for you when you need the convenience.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's about it.
Yeah,
That's what I can think of off the top of my head.
yeah,
Just respect, especially when it comes to flesh and blood. Uh, make sure that that card you just pulled might be worth an insane amount of money, even though it doesn't look like it does anything. One of the dropbacks of the Pokemon stage is that every card is worth something, even if they're all terrible.
yeah,
So that is where I really learned to do. It's like, okay, well, this is an S Beyond GX. It does nothing. It's in the lowest rarity. Oh, but it's an EV evolution, so it gets a premium even though it doesn't do anything.
yeah,
Charizard's the same way. Charizards, they print for days. There's so many of them. Every single one of them carries a premium because it says Charizard, not because it's a usable card.
yeah. That's true.
I don't think Flesh and Blood has actually run into that unless you count Shiana, but Shiana's already a
Hey,
cold
hey,
foil
don't you come after
fable.
Shiana. Don't
I
you.
wanted one.
I must
I was
defend her.
I was one pack away from an Arnite shard.
You're one
I
pack away from an Arknight shard. I gotta hear this story.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I started participating in the community was box breaks, including yours.
Nice.
I have been known for my luck. If my fifth box heart and fifth box eye have anything to say about it.
That's pretty lucky.
Um, and I was buying into Crucible breaks because I lost the ability to buy boxes. It spiked so far out of my price range that I was literally just buying at packs. And I had a day where I bought 11 Crucible packs. And the second break I did, I bought packs 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Someone had already bought pack 10. And I was probably going to buy 6 packs if 10 wasn't gone, because that was the longest string of numbers I wanted. My 5 packs, I got 3 Majestics.
Wow.
The most expensive one was Rune Blood Barrier,
Hey.
and the other was an Absorption Dome and
Ooh.
a Snag. And
Huh.
so it's just like, well, at $70 a pack, I just took a beating. And like, I'd had a really bad day by that point, and I'm like, I'm just gonna log off the stream. And by the time I could press the button, they're opening pack 10, and they're like, oh my god, it's a shard.
Wow, that
I
sucks.
w- I that was like the screen door hitting me violently on the way out. I was just like, okay, I'm done. We're good.
That sucks.
I felt bad for like a good day and a half after that. It's just like that was $7,000. I was one
One
pack
pack
away from
away.
$7,000, and it's like, um, well, there's a tip for you. Don't be afraid to use your collection for money to advance your like personal financial goals. Especially if you can use that money to travel. Like I used Pokemon money. I would sell off my high end cards at events to fund going to other events.
Yeah, that's cool.
Uh, uh, don't be so attached to the cardboard that you forget that you can sell it off to improve other facets of your life. That,
This is
like,
so good.
well, in your video, you had someone that said, "I bought a house with this,"
Yep.
and you know what? I believe it.
I know people who have that particular person literally put their entire down payment on a house. Couldn't had never had the money to come up with money to put a down payment on a house, sold like 10 cards and put a down payment on a house their first time. Imagine that wife. Like, I love his wife's in that. Like, just so, I don't know if it's wife or
It
girlfriend, whatever,
was
ecstatic. I know people who never had the ability, like 18, 20-year-olds who, were out of high school, who didn't have money to buy a car, but had gotten lucky and pulled a spring tunic, gotten lucky and pulled a shard or a heart and sold the heart at 25,000 and bought themselves
suddenly
their
you have a car.
can you imagine being 18 years old and being able to buy yourself a full car, like a brand new car, because of a card game? Like, when I was playing Magic, it was like, oh, I pulled a $10 card. I'm gonna sell it and get dinner. Like, I was like excited to like be able to afford dinner, and these kids are buying cars. It's awesome. I love
Yeah,
it. I
it's
love it.
as long as you're cognizant of your surroundings and can make good financial
Yeah.
decisions to maintain your collection, you keep paying out as long as this keeps going. And between the community and the way LSS is handling customer service, and like, they're making sure that they are not doing things the same as the other major players, and that is what is going to allow them to survive and why I want to be here.
Yeah.
It has just so much potential, and I am happy to be along for the ride.
And I think this is a good transition where it's like taking gains is good. Like, what you're saying is like, don't be afraid to realize your gains, because none of our cards are worth any money until we sell them, right? Like,
Right.
my dad was telling me this the other day. He's like, well, that card's not really worth that unless you sell it. And I was like, all right, Dad, like, I get it, whatever. Uh, and I think this is a good transition to like, yeah, it's okay, but also don't be worried about the potential money you lose in the future. Like, I say that I used to say this all the time in videos where it's like, don't, like, if you decide to sell today because it's worth your $4,000, you're like, man, a storm, I got a cold foil Storm Striders, it's worth $3,500, and like that, I need the cash today, like for something in my life, or just simply like to fund a hobby. Like, don't look back in 2 months when it's $7,000 card and be like, oh man, I really could have gotten $3,500 more for it, because like at that moment in your life, like that $3,500 was really important, and like it, just don't take the money and go gamble your life away on something stupid. Like, make sure that it's
Yeah,
something
that's
significant that like you can look back and be like, yeah, but like I bought a house, yeah, but I bought a car, yeah, but I was able to fund my kids' college fund. Like, I can't wait to sell off like a majestic cold foil in 5 years and pay for my daughter's school. You know what I mean? She'll be
yep.
she'll be 8 then. I guess in 20 years. I can't wait for that. Like, I can't wait for that. But like, I do believe that will happen if the game continues to grow. Personally, I'm there. Like, I think the game's gonna grow. I'm betting my life on cardboard these days. So I think the game's gonna grow. I love it.
Well, it seems at this point, after the last hero reveal, we'll know what 4 classes are going to be in Kingdoms. So I think
Oh,
I
Xeric specking on
well,
kingdoms already. I like it.
kind of, sort of, like, one of the things that I have noticed throughout trading card games of every kind is that printing card sets happens in cycles and mirrors. I As soon as they said that there was going to be a Shadow Brute and then a Shadow, was it Runeblade? I knew that they were aiming to put 2 classes from each of the core sets into
Yeah.
this set, so that they wouldn't be overly burdening either of the other core sets, so that one would languish on shelves and one would be unavailable. It would be bad on both sets. So
Those
this
guys at
still leaves what
LSS, it's not just a hat rack. You know what I mean? Like, they they actually thought about
uh
stuff.
Yeah, I am absolutely certain that they planned out their class distribution so that nothing would be overly taxed at any given point. Everything's coming along in pairs, and it's mirrored design,
Yep.
and it is very elegant and a very strong way to build your base, where you're just going to have a good steady stream of content. Everyone will know what they're looking forward to in the next set, and then the most exciting time will be, all right, all the cycles are complete. So where are they going to head for their next overarching layout?
Yeah.
And maybe they'll do a. Uh, I know they have this planned at what they said 7 sets. So they could do another similar where you had WTR, Arc, and then Crucible added set cards for all 8 classes in a mini set. You could have Monarch, then Kingdoms, and then the set after that is like the Crucible of those talents
Yeah, that's cool.
uh,
Ooh, I like
that
that.
adds through it.
The
So,
set could be called Crucible of Talents instead of Crucible of War.
oh no. But like that's
LSS should
exciting.
not hire me as game design.
The the fact that we don't know everything about it, but we can extrapolate from what we have is what makes it exciting for me and what keeps me coming back to TCGs as a hobby. Uh, yeah, it's thrilling. I love it. I'm probably gonna do this for the rest of my life. The fact that I got scouted by Channel Fireball to be their Pokemon contact back in the day that led me into this position.
That's
I'm
cool.
living the dream.
That's awesome.
This is I have a career in the thing that I spent my life doing. I do believe to be very lucky in that aspect, but I'm here. I'm just going to hold on as much as I can.
Wow, I love that. That is a beautiful way to end this conversation, my friend. I love that
Uh,
you are happy. I love that you are excited about life. I love that you are. Uh, I love that you are able to make a life for yourself in cardboard. Like that's beautiful, right? Like that's such a lucky thing. You're right. That's awesome.
Flesh and Blood is helping me immensely on this.
Yeah, yeah,
And to that end, so are you. So I greatly appreciate you and the community and everything that is wrapping around your channel. I'm happy to boost your server.
yeah.
Come
Dude, Zurich bursted
come
like
join the Discord
7 times.
server. It is a fantastic place for discussion, both in the game and the investment side. You have a lot of people right behind you, so please continue to
Yeah.
be a beacon of sorts. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, hopefully, I want to re-clarify. Hopefully, we're wrapping the channel around Flesh and Blood, and then the community can be wrapped around both. But I'm very honored to be a part. I consider myself a small part of the Flesh and Blood community. I'm very honored to be in here. I got a lot to learn, as do we all. But it's awesome, dude. It was
Well,
awesome to see some perspective of some perspective from about the Flesh and Blood world from somebody who has such a rich, diverse history in other card games, because I think that's so important moving forward. And hopefully we can keep having some other chats. And dude, I really, really appreciate anything else that you want to say before we wrap it up.
just that I really, really like your favorite phrase, which is something that I live my life behind, and that is be kind to people.
Yeah, you want to let them know?
Hmm.
You want to tell them? You want to sign it out by telling them to do it?
Yeah. Hey, everybody, signing off. Remember to be kind to people.
Hey, you heard it here first, folks. Dude, I appreciate you. Thanks for all you do, man.
All right, see you next time.